The first time I kissed her, she didn't kiss me back. She just stood there, stunned, shaking, her lips trembling inches from mine, eyes wide with betrayal. Not betrayal from me, but from him. "Why?" she whispered. "Why now?" I couldn't answer, not with the truth crashing down around us. She turned away, as if trying to erase what had just happened. But before she could take another step, I said the one thing I had sworn to never say out loud. "He's cheating on you, Emily." She froze. My chest ached as I pulled the folded photos from my pocket. His hotel receipts, the messages he forgot to delete from the synced company drive, the surveillance footage I never wanted to see. "I didn't want you to find out like this," I said, voice low, shaking. "But you deserve to know." She looked at me, eyes full of confusion and hurt, and I knew in that moment everything had changed. For her, for me, for him, because love and loyalty had collided and something had to break. Ryan had been my best friend since college. We built everything together, from dorm room startup ideas to sleepless nights debugging our first real product. I trusted him like a brother. No, more than that, like a part of myself. He could be reckless, arrogant, even selfish, but I always believed he had a line he wouldn't cross. I was wrong. It started with small things. Suspicious late-night texts. Trips that didn't line up with our business calendar. The way he'd flinch when Emily asked simple questions like, "Who called you just now?" I told myself it was stress, workload, marriage fatigue, until the day I saw it with my own eyes. Ryan, wrapped around a client in a hotel bar across town, her hand on his chest, his mouth against her ear. I stood across the street, gripping a delivery I had brought to the hotel myself, thinking I was covering for him on a tight deadline. When I confronted him the next morning, he didn't even try to lie. He laughed. "Come on, man. Don't look at me like that. Emily's fine. She doesn't want to know. Some people just aren't built for monogamy." I stared at him. "She's your wife." He shrugged. "She's safe. She's smart. But she's not exciting. You know how this works." And then he leaned in, smiling. "You won't say anything. You never do." And that was it. He had used me to cover his lies, to fund his lifestyle, to guard his secrets. And he had no idea that the one line he thought I'd never cross, he had just pushed me past it. Ryan always saw me as the loyal one, the coder, the back-end guy, the friend who would clean up his messes without asking questions. He was the spotlight, I was the scaffolding holding it up. What he never realized was, I liked being underestimated. While he chased clients in flashy suits and fancy lounges, I spent nights building the company's infrastructure, both digital and legal. The entire platform we'd created was written in my architecture. I owned key copyrights, and through quiet clauses inserted early in our startup phase, I retained control over more than he ever realized. Emily, too, had no idea how often I'd protected her. Paid off the credit card he maxed out on weekend getaways. Covered for him when he missed her gallery openings. Sat through dinner pretending not to notice the perfume on his collar that wasn't hers. I kept my distance from her emotionally for years. Not because I didn't feel anything, but because I felt too much. But the night I saw her cry on the balcony, alone, after he told her he'd be missing their anniversary for a conference, something broke in me. I realized I wasn't just protecting her for him anymore. I was protecting her from him. And more than that, I was preparing for the day when I'd stop protecting him altogether, because somewhere between the code and the silence, I had built something of my own power. Not the loud kind, the kind that waits, watches, and strikes only when it's ready. At first, I still hesitated, even after what I'd seen, even after what he admitted, because what would happen if I exposed him? Emily would be shattered. The company might collapse. Our investors would panic. And I would lose everything I'd helped build. But Ryan didn't stop. He got bolder. He rerouted company funds, tens of thousands, into an offshore account to take his mistress to Ibiza under the excuse of international business development. When I questioned the numbers, he laughed. "Just move some budgets around," he said. "You're good at that, right?" That's when I discovered the forged signature. He'd used my name, my approval, to sign off on the wire transfer. He didn't even ask. And I realized then, he wasn't just careless. He thought he owned me, that I was too loyal, too quiet, too cowardly to ever stand up to him. But he had miscalculated. Because I wasn't alone anymore. I had allies. One of our investors had always preferred my style over Ryan's flash. I reached out to him quietly. We began restructuring the ownership. Legally, quietly, methodically, and I started spending more time with Emily. Not romantically, but honestly. I helped her set up an online gallery. Encouraged her to host a small show. I watched her eyes light up as she spoke to people who admired her for her vision. Not because she was someone's wife. That's when I saw it. The same thing she had given up on. Hope. And that's when the stakes became crystal clear. This wasn't just about business anymore. This was about showing her and myself that silence is not love, and that loyalty should never be used as a leash. I didn't yell. I didn't threaten. I didn't even confront him again. Instead, I smiled. I let Ryan keep thinking he was in control, that I was still the same sidekick from college. Obedient, passive, loyal. I nodded through meetings, fixed his errors, and signed documents he didn't know I'd rewritten. The launch party became my battlefield. Ryan wanted a lavish event to show off our platform's global expansion. He booked a rooftop venue, sent press invites, and lined up potential investors. He bragged that it would be our coming out moment as industry leaders. He didn't know that 3 weeks before the event, the papers went through. The core product's ownership was now mine. The investor, one of the most respected in the tech space, had bought out Ryan's shares through a quiet holding company I helped set up. Legally, Ryan was no longer a partner, but I said nothing. Not yet. Behind the scenes, I had also been working with a forensic accountant. Every wire transfer, every business expense, every forged signature, carefully documented and verified. And then there was Emily. 2 weeks before the party, I handed her the full folder. Not just the cheating, the theft, the manipulation, the lies. She didn't cry. She didn't yell. She just sat there going page by page until her hands stopped trembling. Then she looked up at me and said something I'll never forget. "Thank you for giving me the truth gently, even when it was sharp." And that's when I knew Ryan had already lost. Now, it was just a matter of showing everyone else. The night of the launch party, the rooftops sparkled with fairy lights and expensive wine. Investors clinked glasses. Journalists scribbled notes. Ryan moved through the crowd like a king, smiling, charming, already taking credit for a future that was no longer his. Emily arrived halfway through the night, elegant and unreadable. Ryan, ever the showman, welcomed her with a loud kiss on the cheek for the cameras, completely unaware of the storm she carried in her clutch. And then, it was time for the presentation. Ryan took the stage, microphone in hand, beaming. "Tonight," he began, "marks a new chapter for our company, for our global future, for all of us." The screen behind him flickered. First, our old college photo, arms slung over each other's shoulders. The crowd chuckled. Nostalgia. Then transaction records. Wire transfers. Matching mistress bookings. His signature. My name forged underneath. Laughter faded into silence. Ryan froze. What is this?" The screen shifted again. Emily's artwork. Her signature. Her donation, funded by the new foundation created by me. Her name in gold on a gallery plaque. A still frame from her first solo exhibition. "She's not just someone's wife," I said into the second mic, stepping onto the stage. "She's a force in her own right. And tonight isn't just about software. It's about ownership, truth, and taking back what matters." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Then the investor, our newest majority shareholder, stood up. "As of 2 weeks ago," he said calmly, "Ryan Chun was bought out of his stake. He no longer holds any equity or decision-making power in this company." Effective immediately, Ryan lunged toward me. "You backstabbed me." I didn't flinch. "No, I stopped protecting you." He looked at Emily, desperation in his eyes. You believe him over me? She met his gaze with quiet fury. I believed in you for too long, and then she turned her back and walked off the stage. The fallout was swift. By morning, the headlines had shifted from praising Ryan's visionary leadership to exposing his fraud, infidelity, and financial misconduct. Screenshots, videos, eyewitness accounts. I didn't leak any of it, but I didn't stop it either. The investor board acted within 48 hours. Ryan was removed from all affiliations, pending legal action. His mistress, ironically also his financial advisor, vanished overseas. The authorities were already tracking the paper trail. As for the company, we rebranded quietly, powerfully. Emily's art appeared on the new site's homepage. A single, elegant painting of a bird escaping a broken cage. It became a symbol for everything we'd survived, and everything we refused to be part of again. People reached out, not just clients but former colleagues. Staff who had left because they couldn't take the toxicity. They asked if they could come back. Not to follow me, but to build something with me. Something honest. And Emily? She flourished. The gallery went viral. Her story resonated. People saw her not as the scorned wife, but the woman who walked through betrayal with grace and emerged radiant. We began meeting often, not as a secret, not in guilt, but in healing. Months later, we stood at another rooftop, this one hers. A celebration of her second show. She looked at me and smiled. Funny how everything shattered. And yet somehow, this feels like the beginning. It is, I said. And for once, I wasn't thinking about Ryan at all. Because the man who tried to own everything had lost the only things that ever mattered. And the one who stayed quiet had finally spoken with actions too loud to ignore.